Hi, everyone. I'm so excited. I'm on the phone with Paula Doyle over the pond, right?
That's correct.
Where
I'm
do
in
you,
England.
in England, yeah. You're very excited. I'm very excited. First book.
That's right.
And it's with the best publisher in the world, C&T
I
Publishing.
agree. I agree 100%.
So tell us about the book. I can see some quilts behind you. Before we look at them, tell us about the concept because it's
All
unusual.
right. Okay. Well, basically, it's a new method for piecing small scale quilts and quilted projects. And I got the basic idea of the whole thing was from your show back when you were in doing Simply Quilts. And there was a show where a lady came on and did watercolor quilts using 2.5 inch squares fused to a piece of interfacing.
Uh-huh.
And so I came home and I decided I liked small things and I decided I was going to do something small. And I sort of thought, well, if it worked with 2.5, maybe it would work with 1 inch squares. And I did the trip around the world doing the same method, fusing it to the interfacing.
That is beautiful.
That's just a little bit of machine embroidery around it. And then the other thing that, of course, when it's small scale, I like to use foundation piecing. But of course, foundation piecing, you can't do something like a 3 inch Ohio star very easily. And that's really what I wanted to do was, things like traditional blocks that you couldn't do using the original foundation piecing project. And so what it is I came up with the concept of mini mosaics, and it all boiled down to making the pieces of the patchwork into squares or into square tiles. So, for example, if you were to look at this little square, that's a plain square tile
So
right there in the center.
that's what this is all about in the book. This piece back here.
That is eventually, yeah, that's the grid onto which you overlay your interfacing on the ironing board.
Okay, I'm getting
Um,
ahead of you then, right? Yeah.
That's okay.
Okay.
That's all right. Not to worry. So that's a plain square tile. But if you wanted to say make a half square triangle tile, it's a little bit different. Of course, everything's rotary cut, I should say. Very simple, easy to piece, straight seams. And so if you had a plain square tile, it would just be a rotary cut square of fabric like that.
Uh-huh.
But if you wanted to make a pieced tile, then we have the addition of using a template. And what I use as templates are just squares of freezer paper that are rotary cut. And so I piece 2 pieces of fabric if I want to do a half square triangle tile like that.
Okay.
And I take can you see that there? I don't
Yeah,
know.
but that's not a half square triangle. That's 2 rectangles, isn't it?
It is. That's what I'm saying. It's just a 2 rotary cut pieces of fabric that are stitched together with a straight seam.
Okay.
And then I take my freezer paper and I line the freezer paper up with the seam. Then all I do is cut around the freezer paper. So there it is all lined up.
Yeah.
I cut around the freezer paper and release the freezer paper. And when I peel it off, I have a perfect half square triangle tile. And it's exactly the right size. And it doesn't have any dog ears and it won't fray because it's been cut on the bias.
Well, what about that bias? Is that a danger zone then or not?
Not really, because you're fusing it onto a piece of interfacing and that sort of keeps everything stable when you're stitching. So if you wanted to say make a quarter square triangle tile, start with a 4 patch, take the same template and line the points of the template up with the seam lines, cut it out and look,
Oh my
perfect
gosh.
little quarter square triangle tile.
I can tell you right
And
now,
no need to piece.
people are like going ding, 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 ding.
I hope so. I hope so. If you wanted to do a half and quarter, that's like the center of a log cabin. Again, take your freezer paper
Hold that one up a
template.
little bit. Hold that one up a little bit.
Okay.
There you go. Yeah.
There we go.
Uh-huh.
And then when you cut it out, you've got that little baby right there. And that's just 3 of the different types of tiles that you can make. You can make all sorts of different ones. But here what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to make a particular block.
Okay.
So the next thing, once you make your tiles for your piece, you have your grid sheets. Now those, as you pointed out, are in the back of the book.
Okay.
And grid sheets are reusable. They simply lay on your ironing board, and then you pin a piece of interfacing. And I like to use a very, very lightweight fusible interfacing over the grid so that I can see the grid behind it. And the grid's specially designed because we're working with such small pieces that the problem with it, you don't want them to overlap. You want them to have a little bit of space and a little bit of forgiveness. And the grid's been specially designed for that. So that what you do is you take your tile once you've made all your tiles, and you simply position them according to your diagram over the interfacing and fuse it in place with your iron. So here's one that I've fused before. There's 25 tiles on there, and you can see, I don't know if you can pick it up, but there's a tiny little bit of space
you can see
in between those tiles. And that's really what makes it very easy for you to then fold and stitch with a 1/4 inch seam allowance down that fold.
Oh my gosh. This is fantastic.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad you like it. So you fold and stitch all the seams going in one direction once. Because you're working with such small pieces, you also open up your seam allowances and iron them flat. And then you fold and stitch in the other direction with a 1/4 inch seam. And look what you have.
Oh my gosh. It's perfect.
It is perfect. It is perfect. You'll get perfect points, and it will look, it's a lot easier to deal with than all those little triangles.
Yeah, your husband's, I have to tell everybody, your husband's behind the scenes, and so is mine. They've got us Skyped together here, right?
That's it.
Hey, hi. Stick your head
in. So you can make that into a little mug rug if you want.
I love it. Now, Paula, that big quilt behind you, or I should say all those quilts behind you, were they all done using this technique?
Yes, they were. The big quilt behind me is they're all in the book, but the big quilt behind me is 30 blocks, 36-inch blocks that have been done with the method. And then, of course, the method gives itself to making lots of different projects, like the bags and table runners, cushions, of course.
Yeah.
All sorts of kinds of cushions. But you can do other things, like, you can, of course, you can make placemats.
Oh yeah.
Like there's a lovely placemat. Or that could be a dolly quilt, or a teddy bear quilt.
I don't know about that.
That's right. You could do something like a little wallet. You see, that's in the book as well.
So Paula, let me ask you a question. When you teach a class, like a day class, what do the students get done?
Okay, they do the festival block because that sort of lets them make lots of different tile types. Wow. And that's the block that they make.
And do you teach stateside? I have to ask on behalf of the people in the U.S.
Yes, absolutely. I do teach stateside. I taught my first class on mini mosaics when I was at Festival of Quilts in Houston this year, to a guild in Houston. And I am happy to travel.
And then we have a lot of Canadians. We got a lot of Aussies. Have you been in those two countries?
I lived in Canada for 3 years. Yeah. That's where I learned how to quilt. So yes, I am happy to go to anywhere, really. My husband's actually even happier. So
you know what Libby Lehman says? She says, Stan, that's her husband, says I'm the perfect husband. I leave on weekends and I come back with money in my pocket.
That's about right. Yes.
Okay, so the name of the book is Mini Mosaic, right?
Mini Mosaic Quilts.
And where do people, of course they should go to their quilt shop, right?
Of course. Of course they should go to their quilt shop.
But if not, Amazon?
Amazon is fine, yes. I do sell on my website, but that's usually the postage is fairly prohibitive going to the States, of course.
Sure. What is your website?
It's www.greenmountainquilts.com.
I love this.
And there's a video on my website. There's actually two. One is a short little 5-minute introduction to the technique. And the other one is a 30-minute you get to watch me sew.
Oh, so yay.
It's if people want to go on that, that's free on my website. They're more than welcome to look at that. The other thing too is I'd like to say is that it's a fat quarter friendly book. So if people have lots of fat quarters or scraps, or, if they want to go out and buy, then please go out and buy fabrics. The quilt
Yeah.
shops will be happy to see you.
Yes.
But if you wanted to work with what you had, it is very, very stash friendly.
Hey, are you going to be at Houston this next year?
I am going to be in Houston, yes.
Please come by the booth, the TQS booth. I'd like to meet
Okay.
you. Have we met before?
Okay. We have met, but only briefly. I know Ricky better.
Oh, do you?
Yes, yeah. So, but yes, we have met, and I think we met in the lobby in the Hilton.
There you go. That's where you
years
see
ago.
everybody there. So, hey, I want to thank you so much, Paula. We've kind of been going back and forth, and I kind of had a little computer disaster, but John took care of that. And I know people are really going to love this. And we'll link through to your site so that people can go view the lessons, because people on the site really want to learn. So
Fabulous.
great
Fabulous.
little learning lesson.
And there's a free, if people want to teach the method, there's C&T has something on their website. They have a downloadable class.
Lesson plan. CT
Lesson plans, handouts.
Yeah, ctpub.com. So we're with a great publisher. Thank you so much. It's
Oh,
heading.
oh,
yeah. What?
My
You got
husband
something?
just wants to mention that you do need the grid, because otherwise things don't line up terribly well without
Okay.
the grid.
Okay.
So,
Cool. Well, have a great rest of the day. It's 9 in the morning and 5 your time, right?
I'm about to have my afternoon coffee.
Oh, nice. And thank your husband. I want to have him stick his head in.
Okay.
Come on, Mark.
Thank
This
you,
is
Mark.
the other way.
The other
over
way. Go the
here.
other way.
Hi.
Thank you,
There we
Mark.
go.
Hi. Good.
We love
Okay,
the
Alex.
We love the wizards behind the scenes. So
Yes, absolutely.
thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.